Good evening, everyone. This is Natisha Rivera-Patrick, and I'm coming to you live from Waxhaw, North Carolina. Tonight, I have the pleasure of presenting information to you on Chapter 12, which deals with contemporary view of leadership in organizations. So let's get at it. So in Chapter 11, we learned more about contemporary situational theories, and so now we're going to look at redirecting the study of leadership with some different models that we've been exploring. The first of which is leader-member exchange model, which stresses the importance of variable relationships between supervisors and each of their subordinates. We have the in-group model, which is when a member of the group often receives special duties requiring more responsibility and autonomy. They may receive special privileges from their supervisor, such as a more flexible work schedule. They tend to get the more exciting assignments or pulled to the table more often to be a part of the conversation. In contrast to that, you have the out-group, and so these are the folks that maybe aren't as favored by the supervisor for whatever reason. They don't get called to the table, they are given the more mundane task, and they're typically out of the loop with what's going on. With the Hersey and Blanchard model, this is based on the premise that the appropriate leader behavior depends on the readiness of the leader's followers. So they're looking at what is the degree of motivation of the team? What is their competence? What is their experience? What is their interest in accepting additional responsibility? So as the readiness of the followers improves, the leader's basic style should also change accordingly. If the readiness is low, the leader needs to provide direction and define roles. If the readiness is high, leaders need to engage in a delegating style, allowing for more independence and autonomy. So what type of leader are you? As you've gone through these chapters in this course, I would hope that you've asked yourself that question, because often what we perceive ourselves to be might not be in alignment with what we're projecting with others. So that being said, seen through the eyes of the followers gives us the opportunity to look at leadership through the eyes of the followers. And it offers a look at alternatives to traditional leadership models. How are leaders seen through the eyes of their followers? In what ways and to what extent is it important that followers and others observers attribute leadership to others? So the three primary approaches to leadership through the eyes of followers are transformational leadership, charismatic leadership, and the attributions of leadership. In transformational leadership, there is a focus on the basic distinction between leading for change and leading for stability. Much of what a leader does occurs within the course of normal, routine, work-related transactions. That creates work groups, and it helps define the organizational culture. So how charismatic are you? We know that charisma and charm can get us a long way, in both personally and professionally, but at the end of the day, in a professional role, actions have to speak louder. So whether it's you that is the doer, or you're building a team that you're able to lead with your charm, to be the worker bees, whatever that is, the end result has to be a quality product. So when you're looking at charismatic leadership, we know that first, charisma is a form of interpersonal attraction that inspires support and acceptance. Charismatic leadership, then, is accordingly a type of influence based on the leader's personal charisma. So charismatic leaders are often more likely to influence others. They're going to be more successful in influencing subordinate behavior. They're going to create high-performing teams and groups, organizations. They have a high level of self-confidence. There's a firm confidence in their beliefs and ideals. They have a strong need to influence others. They have very high expectations, not only of themselves, but of their team members, and they can articulate their vision, and then they help lead others through completing that. So the charismatic leader, they're envisioning, which means they can articulate a compelling vision. They set those high expectations, and they model that consistent behavior. They're energizing. They're demonstrating personal excitement in their role. They're expressing personal confidence, and they're seeking, finding, and using success to lead others. They enable their team to be expressive. They're empathetic to their team members, and they express confidence in the people that they work with. They help them feel empowered. So attribution in leadership, when we look at attribution perspective on leadership holds that when behaviors are observed in a context associated with leadership, different people may attribute varying levels of leadership ability or power to the person displaying those behaviors. Leadership substitutes. So individual tasks and organizational characteristics that tend to outweigh the leader's ability to affect subordinates' satisfaction and performance. Employees will perform their job with or without direction. They'll do it capably. Individual ability, experience, training, knowledge, motivation, and professional orientation are some of the characteristics that may substitute for leadership. And organizational characteristics that may substitute for leadership include explicit plans or goals, rules and procedures, cohesive work groups, a rigid reward structure, and physical distance between the supervisor and subordinate. Some leadership neutralizers, which are factors that render ineffective a leader's attempts to engage in various leadership behaviors. An example of that would be if you had a new and inexperienced leader that's placed in a group of very experienced employees, they may, their ability to affect change will be hindered because that group is not going to be accepting. In fact, I think the picture kind of says it all. You know, it's almost like, what is this person going to tell me? So when you're coming into an environment where you are new and the subject matter maybe isn't what you're well versed in, it will suit you well to get to know those team members and to work alongside them rather in a more of a hierarchical approach. So changing the nature of leadership, we're going to look at leaders as coaches, gender in leadership, strategic leadership, ethical leadership, and virtual leadership. Leaders as coaches, we know that coaches help develop the players' talents, and it teaches them how to execute specific plays. But then after that, they stay on the sidelines. So in the same vein, organizational leaders can help select their team members. They can provide general direction, support, and then they leave it to the players to get the job done. The leader can keep a low profile. And it's so important in any leadership capacity to serve as a mentor. How did you learn all the things that you learned? Somebody taught you something along the way or took some time to make sure that you felt that you were educated and engaged and empowered to be the best that you could be in your role. So it's important that we do that for others and help move them along. Some of the essential traits, behaviors, and skills for coaches include the following. In terms of traits, you're looking at someone who's positive, who's future-oriented, who's curious. They have skills such as collaboration. They're a learning facilitator. They're an educator and a teacher. And then their behaviors are, they're a continuous learner. There's an outward focus, and they're an active and engaged listener. Too often we talk at people. We need to do a better job of listening and inviting that feedback, inviting those ideas, and making a more cohesive team. Gender in leadership. There is a growing number of women advancing to higher levels in organizations. Most leadership theories focus on male leaders, so there's certainly a need for more research in the area of women in leadership. Women tend to be more democratic in making decisions, whereas men are more autocratic. Women tend to have stronger interpersonal skills, and they're able to effectively involve others in decision making. So when talking about gender and all of the changes that we're seeing in terms of leadership capacity, we'd be remiss not to speak on the fact that cultural diversity has certainly come into play. As we see more women, more minorities step up into leadership roles, we need to have more research around that and how to integrate and to build acceptance around that, because I think that's something we still struggle with. Emerging issues in leadership, we can then focus on strategic leadership, which is the capability to understand the complexities of both the organization and its environment, and to lead change in the organization so as to achieve and maintain a superior alignment between the organization and its environment. So managers must have complete understanding of the organization, its history, its culture, its strengths, its weaknesses, in order that they can help provide strategic direction, alignment, and commitment from themselves and the team members. Ethical leadership is just what it sounds like. In ethical leadership, it's the process of leading based on consistent principles of ethical conduct. Leaders are being held accountable. We see more and more now background checks being conducted. Of course, credit checks are always a part of that, especially going into some type of financial role. There's just stronger corporate governance where people are being watched and they're being held accountable at that higher level. So we have to make sure that we're leading in a way that's responsible and that's truthful. I like the little picture on here that says there is no right way to do a wrong thing. So do what's right and lead by example in that way for your team. Virtual leadership, as we continue to see technology continue to grow and be a larger component of our lives, this allows for opportunity for us to have a different type of work environment. And many of us get to enjoy being able to work remote or telecommute, work from home. And so we're able to stay connected because we're able to do that by phone, by text, by computer, by email, video conference. I mean, the possibilities are endless. The challenge in that is you lose the interpersonal component that's associated with that. So relationship building becomes a bit more difficult. You have to be intentional about forging those relationships with team members. So anytime you get the chance to have that one-on-one, face-to-face time, you want to take advantage of making sure that that time is spent helping to build that rapport and to build the relationship with your team member. So the question that I leave you with today is, what kind of leader are you? If you're not currently in a leadership position, what kind of leader do you aspire to be? If you're not and want to talk about a leader that you have that maybe has served as a mentor or somebody that you look up to, certainly that is an appropriate response to this question. And then for those of us who are leaders, if you're currently in a certain position and want to be something more or aspire to be something greater or see and have learned throughout these chapters, maybe some challenges that you might be having or certainly some areas for opportunity to grow, then I would certainly discuss that as part of your answer. But I hope that you found your time well spent. I'm sorry, it's been a long day for me today. And I look forward to learning more with you all. Have a great evening. God bless.